Good morning and welcome into this edition of our NAIA-SIDA Spotlight Series, where we feature the best and brightest from our sports information directors from around the country. My name is Rachel Moore, Assistant AD and Director of Athletic Communications here at Central Methodist University, and I'm excited to be joined by a fellow Hart SID, Miss Natalie Rigatuso from Grandview University. Natalie, how are you?
Good, Rachel. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to join you today, fellow
You bet.
Hart.
Yes, ma'am. It'll be a good time. We'll have some fun. First, just want to get your background of you as a person and kind of where your roots come from.
Yeah, so I'm actually from Omaha area, Council Bluffs. I went to high school at Lewis Central, so right on the border there. Everyone likes to call it Council Tucky, but Council Bluffs, Omaha. Actually went to undergrad here at Grandview, so have stayed close to home, only 2 hours from there, and played basketball here as well. And that's kind of my background.
Talk about your time as a student athlete. Obviously, I think there's a number of SIDs that have played a sport and then they've transitioned into the SID role. But kind of talk about your career as a student athlete at Grandview.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to be on a team that was competing in the national level every year. I love Grandview, and it was actually kind of weird. A lot of my high school friends actually came here to play soccer, so I was surrounded by some of my high school best friends, as well as some of the teammates I met here too. Had some of the best people, a lot of relationships that I still have today. Kelly, my coach at the time, she's actually now at Drake, but she was a great coach. No complaints. It was awesome. Probably one of the best playing experiences that I could have asked for. Really fortunate.
And so transitioning kind of from the student athlete piece, obviously at some point everyone moves on and you have to kind of figure out what you're doing post graduation. And I did a little bit of research. Kind of talk about your journey to becoming an SID from the student athlete.
Yeah, so my senior year rolled around and I hit that internship class, and I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to stay in sports and I enjoyed working with people. And my coach at the time, Kelly, she was like, "Well, our SID is actually looking for an intern. I can probably put you in touch with her, and then you guys can meet and see if it's kind of a fit." So I started out as a student, working for Kelsey Redmond, who was before me, and just doing like little things like graphics and website updates, schedules, things like that. Really wasn't putting in a ton of time. Like I was just working a shift here and there and kind of filling my internship hours. But kind of really grew to love this industry and what it is, and kind of doing behind the scene things and getting to know the student athletes better than most people would, because as you know, like we get to know these kids really well, whether they know it or not. Um, but so started as her intern. My senior Towards the end of my senior year rolled around, and I was going to be Kelsey's graduate assistant at the time. That was my plan going forward. She ended up getting another job, called me and told me, and I was like, well, shoot, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was kind of planning on working for you, and I don't really know any different because I haven't worked with anybody else through the industry. So I ended up telling her, I was like, hey, I don't know enough probably, but I think I'm gonna apply for this job and just see what happens. And kind of the rest was history. I got hired right out of undergrad. There's a lot I've had to learn pretty quick, but it was honestly one of the best things for me, and it's pretty rare to get that much experience right out of school.
I would say Troy picked a good one. He did well in the hiring
Thank you.
process. I want to touch on that though, like the transition from student worker to SID. Normally, or at least a lot of the times, there's a GA piece in there where you get 2 years of extra work to kind of get your feet wet before you dive fully in. But you dove fully in, just given like the circumstances, kind of what happened. Talk about any of the challenges or what the learning process was like, but how you kind of ended up able to overcome some of those challenges and get where you are now.
Yeah, so a lot of that weight bearing that I had to take on from moving into that role so quickly, a lot of that credit does go to Kelsey and Carly. Carly was her GA at the time when I was a student worker. They were both incredible in teaching me and like kind of prepping me along the way. And if they were troopers too for me, always reaching out to them like, hey, I don't know what this is. What do I do for this? Like they were awesome, and just being like, hey, like I'm still here to help you as much as you need through the transition. And it was also a lot of office hours. I was working a lot my first year, just trying to figure things out, and try to merge into that role as easily as possible without a lot of people knowing that there was a change. And I would say too, like I'm just a very competitive person, and I think being competitive and just enjoying sports so much, it was kind of another way for me to be able to compete and like put out the best product possible. So I would say those two things were kind of the biggest.
You mentioned Kelsey, moved on to a different profession, but obviously still a good mentor for you. And, we
Mhm.
all need that, in this profession because
Yeah.
it's such a crazy time. Talk about what it's meant to have her, as a mentor, not only now, but even previously when she was your boss.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't have to help me at all through the transition, but she was always there and willing to help me out. And I think it was kind of hard for her to step away at the time just because she loved it too. So it was kind of a way for her to still help out and stay in it a little bit, but also she was kind enough to help me transition a little bit. I will say too, Steven Carlson has also been a huge, I'm sure you know who he is, SID Steve. Like he was another huge help in my transition. We were constantly playing Northwestern out when he was still over there. So I'd ask him a lot of questions and he'd be there to help me. Still helps me to this day. He's a sidearm wizard, so he's always my sidearm question guy. But there was so many people through that transition and just like mentorship wise that were great. Carly, Kelsey, Steven. It was awesome. And also my fellow hard SIDs. Hit him up my first year all the time for questions that I had, and you guys were always willing to help me.
We got a group chat for a reason. So that's I hop in there every now and then too to see what's going on and ask
Yep.
for help. So it's a good group that we've got. You mentioned playing Northwestern. Usually there's a reason for that. They're pretty good in football, as are you guys. Not only in
Yep.
football, but wrestling, men's volleyball. Grandview's kind of got the whole package. Talk about for you what it's like to work with such a successful athletic department, because I know not every SID gets to do that on a day to day, but you're dealing with championship football here coming up pretty quick. Men's volleyball and women's basketball is always doing well. Talk about the enjoyment that you get getting to work with such successful athletic programs.
Yeah, I would say it's honestly a tribute to how hard some of those coaches work. I put in a lot of hours myself, being in the office and stuff, and I can always walk down the hallway and some of the coaches are still here. Football coaches being a big one. Our wrestling coaches also, like you just the time that they put in contributes or ends up being a prime result of why they're still in the playoffs and why they've had so much success. Um, I would say I've never been on the side of being a losing SID, having teams that don't do as well. That's one thing I'm super thankful for here at Grandview is like all the coaches put in a lot of time. They're always working really hard and their product is always there. There's always good results and it makes my job a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, and I love it just as much as they do to make the postseason. So definitely a plus.
Probably a little more chaotic when it comes to a crossover season, but you got a good group there. So
Yeah.
Um, transitioning into some of the family stuff, I didn't realize this until I saw his last name a couple years ago. But your brother Noah I think he's a senior forward on this year's basketball team down at Baker. He went down south to Baldwin City, Kansas, to play basketball. Obviously, it's still in the family, but you guys just went to different places. Talk about the enjoyment you get getting to watch him play in a fellow Hart school, and every now and then I assume he comes up to play Grandview. Kind of talk about I'm getting to see him play, and you guys get to share that same passion.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it'll be kind of a huge weird transition when he's not here next year. But I always look at the calendar dates like, oh, he's coming to Grandview this time, so I get to see my parents, and it sucks sometimes because obviously we're playing the same nights. So I'll make my GA next to me kind of pull up his game so I can kind of catch a little bit of it while I'm statting stuff. Um, but it's awesome. Like, and he loves it down there. Baker's been great for him, and the coaching staff there is awesome, and it's kind of a cool, very fortunate situation to be in that he's in the heart and I get to watch him play and I keep tabs on everything because I obviously know the other teams as well too. So it's kind of cool. It's really enjoyable and they just went over there last weekend. Grandview did, and I would have gone if we didn't have football, but good problem to have being in the postseason. So yeah, it's awesome.
I'd say he's well on his way to top finish in the conference. I think they're looking pretty good. So that's always
Yeah.
going to be one piece. Um, Natalie, for us, obviously we live and breathe this profession. You've got to be a little crazy to do it, as I always tell people. But we do have lives outside of the SID world, and especially with the holidays coming up here the next week or two. You'll probably still be traveling, but once we're wrapped up for the fall, where can we usually find Natalie when she's on break?
Gosh, I don't know. So we'll get back from football on Sunday, and I get to go home and see my parents. That's the only tough part about this job is I don't get to see my family very often, because we're always competing and doing things like that. But I'll get to go home for a couple days and put on a lot of holiday weight, eating all the baked goods and everything. So baking some cookies and stuff with my family, and then my brother will be home too, and I don't really get to see him often, so I'll get to rebound for him and stuff and beat him in a couple games of horse or pig. Um, when it's nice out, I've actually been picking up golfing, so getting some golf in and just hanging out with my friends. I've been really into running lately too, so doing a lot of that.
Nice. Well done. That's on my New Year's resolution to do more running. We'll see if I actually go. We'll see.
Just let it warm up a little bit. The weather's been killer, so I migrate towards the inside walking. But
Sure, for sure. Understandable up there in Northern Iowa. Natalie, last thing for you. You've only been in that position about 2.5 years, but a lot of history. There's always something going on up at Grandview, whether you're winning conference championships, national championships. Any particular favorite memories or moments that stick out to you in your first 2.5 years?
yeah, I would say just because it's so fresh, this football run that we've been on lately has been incredible. They've always been really, really close the last, I guess I'm in my third year now, but the last 2 years we've gotten there and have been really close, and I'm pretty close with the staff as well. So seeing them kind of get to play those two teams in Iowa and beat them and finally make it to the championship again was kind of huge. Um, they put a lot in, and I think when you get to see some of those coaches reap the rewards of all of their hard work, it's pretty cool. And then obviously we're really good at men's wrestling. So the national championship last year was really cool. All 12 kids were all Americans. And it was like one of the best team finishes they've ever had. It was really cool to watch kids battle through like the blood rounds, and prove themselves that way. I just there's a lot this place really is like family. Like you can't get away from it and everyone's really close, and I'd say like just getting to talk to a different coach every time I go down the hallway too has been really, really cool.
That is Natalie Rigatuso from Grandview University up in Des Moines. Natalie, I appreciate your time. I know you're going to hop on a plane here, as you said, probably within 24 hours, but appreciate you taking some time, and I want to wish you best of luck on Saturday. So,
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
but